Good morning, Maury.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. How were you post inauguration? What were your thoughts on what was said and what's coming down the pike?
I mean, I don't get too worked up about inauguration. I don't read too much into inauguration. I think there's just those first 100 days you got to watch and see what's going on, and then you go from there. So it's uh it's like a party that everyone wakes up afterwards the next day and figures out where they are, what's going on, etc. So that's how I view inaugurations.
What are your thoughts on Mayor Adams making it down there last minute?
I think anybody doing that kind of anybody on one side of the aisle making outreach to the other side of the aisle is good politics. Everybody I've spoken to, whether it's mayors or governors around the country, on the Democratic side, have conveyed to me their interest in outreach to Trump. So I think it's smart and it's wise. Anyone who's in a governing role should be doing that kind of outreach.
Maury, talk a little bit about the work that you're. I mean, I read a series of articles on the work that you did in the Latimer race and how you were instrumental in pulling that out for now Congressmember Latimer. Talk about New York City and what the game plan is, and are there specific districts and/or seats that you're targeting?
Yeah. So the game plan is pretty simple, which is that, as your listeners know, people do not vote at the numbers that we would think they would vote at. And as your listeners also know, especially when it comes to low primary turnout, it's very low. And so you see municipal elections are probably 15%, especially in places like New York City Council and things like that. And school board elections are dip even lower than that. So if that's the reality that people don't vote and they even vote even less when it comes to primaries, the secret to being engaged and the secret to making sure that people who you want in office are in office is you have to have a ground game that is voters. And so what we've been doing is we identify I am Jewish and I've been speaking to a tremendous amount of Jewish voters. The largest Jewish city in America is in New York City, and they've had enough of this reality, which is they feel like their voices should be heard. They feel like the candidates they want in office should stay in office, and the candidates they don't want in office should be removed from office. And so what we've been doing is we've been basically making sure that really two things. Number one is that in in this Democratic primary upcoming in June, members of the Jewish community realize and recognize and are educated and are helped with the process of understanding that they must register as a Democrat in this primary, and two, that they must turn out at the numbers that they are capable of, considering the fact that there are nearly a million Jews in New York City.
Maury, who out of the candidates that have announced, declared that they're running for mayor, who would you say gets the highest grade in terms of the scorecard of the issues that you care about or your community cares about?
I think it's still early. It's still early in the race. I would say that right now the community is definitely more focusing on where the city council is in terms of some of those races. I would say that there is deep concern right now when it comes back to the mayor side. I think there's deep concern about the DSA candidates, in particular those who are openly DSA like Mamdani, and then those who have a history with the DSA like Lander. I think there is more. We know the candidates, and I would say that there's a lot of talk in the community, very nervous about anybody who's affiliated with the DSA. As in terms of the rest of the field, I think it's still too early.
So, hypothetically, if Governor Cuomo were to run between Mayor Adams and former Governor Cuomo, any grades on the
No,
issues that you care about?
I'm not giving out grades yet. I gotta wait to see everybody running, everyone on the field. I'm not ready to give grades quite yet. That's for the next episode.
What are your issues with Comptroller Lander?
I think when it
Give
comes,
me specific things that you are concerned about.
I think that the issue is really about the DSA, and the issue is about the DSA, and the DSA has used anti-Israel rhetoric as a recruiting method. I mean, if you go to many of their websites, if you see a lot of the materials, etc., they've used it as a recruiting technique. And I think that if that's your recruiting technique, you're going to scare a tremendous amount of the Jewish community. And I think as well, they have not, that members of the DSA and DSA adjacent have not combated anti-Semitism to the level that they have. And finally, and I think this is something all New Yorkers share, is that their positions on crime, their positions on combating crime, something that is making families scared, not just members of the Jewish community, but across the board, is something the DSA has terrible policies on. So I think that when you look at people who've been affiliated with DSA like Lander, or people who are really rallying the DSA crowd like Mamdani, I think people look at this in the Jewish community and say, this is terrible. Like, we do not want to see these candidates win. And I think that's really one of the things that's, when I speak to so many Jewish voters, they're talking about that and they're saying, is that a possibility? Could someone who is DSA supported or DSA adjacent win and become mayor? And our answer to them is, if you don't show up to vote, yeah, that's definitely possible.
Talk about the council races. What individual races are you involved in?
So we're involved in about a dozen races so far, and that'll be growing. I think what we're looking at, again, the messaging is
Name
going to be.
names. Name. Can you give me names?
I'm not going to go through all the names because we're still in flux here in terms of
Okay,
where
give
it is.
me
And I'll
three.
talk.
Give me three. Give me three.
I'll talk. We're going to be. We are going to be in a dozen races. We're going to be in a dozen races. The reason why I don't want to give you my specific names yet is because of the strategy that we're doing, which is we are in. For example, we open an office in the West Side in 4. And that specifically, we're going to be working there in the surrounding area there. Wherever we open a voter center is where we're going to be doing a tremendous amount of our voter turnout work and our voter work. And so our target is about 12 districts, but our specific areas that we want to go after are going to be wherever we can open up our voter centers, which I want to share with you and the listeners why that's so unique, which is specifically what we've done, which is so groundbreaking and so unique, is that rather than just sending out emails, rather than just sending text to people, we are opening up in neighborhoods, in districts, and turning out the community to vote, registering people to vote, and getting people excited about voting.
Maury, do you have a path in places like Astoria, Western Queens, Bushwick, North Brooklyn, areas that would be considered strong DSA, pockets? Do you think there's a
Yeah, so
path to victory
yeah,
there?
100%. In North Brooklyn, we're looking at that area also. In Queens, also we're looking at as well. It all depends on how much we can build our voter base and our volunteer network. So right now we have approximately 200 volunteers knocking on doors, re-registering voters, turning people out to vote. I think Brooklyn's going to be the next one, and then we're going to be looking at Queens after that.
Maury, what's the size of your budget? How much money are you talking about spending?
All in, we're looking at spending about $7 million between now and the end of June. That is our goal.
So right now it's solely city council, not so much mayor's race. Why? 6 months out.
I think we're going to ramp up to the mayor's race. The field has to be secure a little more. The field has to be secure a little more, but I think we will be decisive in the mayoral race as well. I think it's going to be both, but I think the city council is determinative in terms of policies in the city, and we have to make sure that we elect people in those. And I think those city council races, we are able to punch above our weight even more than the mayoral race. That being said, 100%. We're going to be active in this mayoral race
But
as
you
well.
don't have a top three. This is ranked choice. Come on, Maury. You can give me a lead. This is
Yeah,
ranked
we're not.
choice. Come on.
I know, but
Three. Come on, three right
I
now.
got it. I got
Minus
it.
former Governor Cuomo.
I got it. Our organization is not doing
All right,
endorsements. That's why I'm
I
trying to be
get
careful.
Brad. I get Brad Lander doesn't make the cut. Neither does Zoran. But there's got to be a top three right now that you're looking at based on the current field.
I'm right. So I'm being careful because our organization doesn't make endorsements. So I'm telling you who
I'm
I'm
just saying
hearing in the
who's good on
community.
the issues. I'm not talking about an endorsement. I'm saying you just like you said that Zoran and Brad should demonstrate a proclivity to not sort of support the causes you believe in and your organization believe in. Who are the ones top three that currently support the movement and the causes you believe in? That doesn't mean you're saying that you're endorsing. That means you're saying they have demonstrated an ability to one, right, be on the side of the issues that you believe in.
I want to see us build this voter infrastructure. I want to see candidates knocking on our community's door. I want to see all that, and I think after that, the community is going to be responding to that and announcing how they think about this and who they think about, etc. But yeah, now I can't, as an organization, we're not going to be doing that quite yet. I mean, we're not going to be doing that as an organization. I might be endorsing in terms of my opinions and who I think, etc. Yeah, I'm not ready for that either yet.
Maury, talk a little bit about the olive branch here. Have you ever tried to have a dialogue with the folks whose positions you don't agree with?
With the DSA,
Oh, with Zoran, with Brad, have you ever said, "Hey, let's sit down and see why we disagree"?
I mean, yeah, I will admit that I have not sat down with either of them and have had a conversation about what we disagree or agree
Why?
with. I'm happy to sit down with anybody. I think that the issue is that when you are surrounded and affiliated with a movement with bad positions and terrible positions, I think that a prerequisite for serious conversations would require a requisite for serious conversations would require distancing of them from these organizations, because it just these organizations have positions that are abhorrent, and they have positions that are deeply troubling to the Jewish community. And I think that I'm happy to sit down with anybody. I'll meet with anybody. I think anybody who knows me knows that. But I think that a prerequisite for that has to be a them distancing themselves, or them saying and admitting these organizations have troubling positions. And not only, I think, if you pivot a little bit and look at what happened in 2024, not only did that cost the Democratic Party, did it cost them up and down the country in races because of affiliation with the DSA, but I also think that it's cost them dramatically with the Jewish community, how the Jewish community views the Democratic Party because of the affiliation with the DSA. So it's something I've said publicly, which is it's not just candidates like those two who have to distance themselves from it, but it's also just the Democratic Party has to have a reckoning and understanding of what to do with this organization with bad policies that are scaring away voters, especially Jewish voters.
Maury, but we started the call saying that the mayor did the right thing by going down to D.C. because he has to work with the incoming administration. Now, you as a leader of an organization that's uh, organizing and mobilizing, there's a ceasefire that was announced, right, in the
Right.
Middle East. Why don't you put out the olive branch? Why don't you say, "Hey, Comptroller Land," or "Hey, Assemblymember Mandani, let's talk," even if it's a background conversation. It happens all the time in this business. Why not put out the olive branch?
I'm not opposed to meeting with anybody, and I agree that olive branches are important. All I'm saying is that there has to be a for that those conversations to be productive, for those conversations to actually have validity. There has to be a distancing from those organizations. They are they have such a bad record and reputation within the Jewish community that I think it poisons the ability to have an open, honest conversation.
Now let me ask you this, Maury. Have you had a conversation with the leadership at the city council, being that you have issues with some of the members and you're involved or are going to be involved with potentially taking out members of that body? Have you had that conversation with the leadership?
I've had many. I can't tell you how many city council members I spoken to. I can't tell you how many assembly members I've spoken to, who, when I've shared with them that it's going to be hard for them to get reelected with their affiliation with the DSA, etc., they are either privately, they will privately admit that, or they basically say, look, I can't win a primary if I don't have an affiliation with them. So it's not necessarily an ideological defense they make. It's more of like an admittance that they sort of are stuck with them. So I've definitely had some of that outreach and those meetings and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a recognition by them that it's hard, it's difficult, not easy to get reelected, but it's hard in these so super low turnout primaries, for them to distance themselves, not get a challenger as well.
Maury, talk about the top three. Do you have a questionnaire? Do you send around a questionnaire on that when you a screening of candidates?
No, we're not doing endorsements. We're not doing endorsements. As I was trying to make, that's why you couldn't pin me down in terms of ranked choice and city council endorsements. We're not doing endorsements in every organization. I had my own my so
All
I
right, so, okay, so I
yeah,
got that. I got the memo.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not doing endorsements. What are the top three things that you're willing to die on the hill
Ah,
for? What are the three
I got it. I
musts?
got it.
No. What are
I
the
think
three
it,
musts your organization in order to not become persona non grata? to your
I think that the number
organization
one.
and your movement, what are the three things that this person, he or she, has to do or not do in order to get your support or not feel the wrath of your organization, a la former Congressmember Bowman?
I think that the number one thing that we've seen in polling and again, and Bradley Honan did some great polling for us on this, is the number one thing we're seeing is that it's how candidates react to anti-Semitism, how they combat anti-Semitism, how they talk about anti-Semitism. I think that that is the number one issue, and there's a host of different ways to deal with that. And so there's feelings that in the Jewish community that a lot of the college campus protests dipped into anti-Semitism. There's feelings that a lot of the anti-Israel rhetoric dipped into anti-Semitism. There's feelings that crime and the ability to attack the Jewish community and be back on the streets within days is not just dips into anti-Semitism, but endangers the Jewish community. So I think that having positions on that is key, and I think instead, and that's key to how the Jewish community is going to think about you and your positions. But I think instead, so many candidates will sort of equivocate. So they'll, for example, if there's something happening on an attack on the Jewish community, they won't call it anti-Semitism. Or if there's an attack happening on the Jewish community, they'll say, well, there's attacks happening on a lot of different communities that, and they will equivocate that with all kinds of other issues. And I just think that's the real essence of this. And when you think about it,
Maury, do you give money?
no, we do not give you money.
You
Nope.
don't give money to, you don't have a political action committee?
No, this is voter mobilization, voter registration, voter turnout, voter mobilization, voter registration, voter turnout.
So
And I
no
think
I
that
no so no IEs either?
nope, no IEs, nope.
Also, it'll be strictly ground game, and more ground game.
Yeah, and why I'm saying is that I think that you're gonna see, we're already seeing in our voter centers people who are turning out and they're taking 10 of their friends' names, or they're taking 100 new names, and they're saying, I will call them and explain to them they have to be registered in this Democratic primary. Or I will go knocking on doors in my neighborhood, whether it's in Manhattan or Brooklyn or Queens, and I will knock on my neighborhood and make sure my friends and family come out to vote. There's a feeling post October 7th in the Jewish community that they have to do something. There's a feeling over the last 6 to 8 months, anti-Semitism is rising to unbelievable levels, especially in New York City, and they have to do something. We are giving the Jewish community actionable items, the ability to go do something.
Maury, who are your biggest donors? You say 7 million. That's a lot of money.
I got donors. I got donors all over the place. We got small donors. We got medium donors. We got big donors.
Who would you say your three biggest donors are?
I would say it's moms, dads, parents, and grandparents. We got
Well, your
everybody.
moms, dads are not going to give you $7 million unless rich moms and dads.
You don't understand. We
Philip,
got tons of donors because
okay,
people
who would you
in the
say are your
Jewish
three
community.
biggest donors?
Again, I would say I just got a check in. I literally just got a check in from a grandmother who gave us, I don't know, $100. Like
All
it
right,
really
so
is
who?
so
Okay,
many different donors.
I get you have grassroots small dollar donations, but who are the big ones?
We got we
Give
got
me the
all we
amount.
got all
What's the biggest check
we
you've received?
get well, I don't know, we get all kinds of
All right, give me
donations.
the highest
I think the
amount.
difference.
Give me the highest
Let me
amount
just
you've received.
let
One
me just
check.
say let me just say that the a lot of times there's these big spends and people say, oh, it's this big industry that's spending, or it's this group or that group. That this is really like community driven. Like we started this because the community asked us to start this. So like
I know, Maury, but you don't
we're
get the
very
seven
excited
million.
about this.
I get it, $7 million without, for example, matching funds like we do in the campaign. It's a lot of money. So, all right,
You know what?
look. I know you
It's a
want to
moment.
dance. I know you
It's
want to dance, and you don't want to give me specifics.
it's
That's
a
fine.
moment in
But I
time.
know for a
It's a
fact you're
moment
not
in
going to raise
time. It's a
seven
moment
million
in time.
dollars, $100 at a clip. That's not going to happen. Not without matching funds. Give me a break.
It's a moment. It's a moment in time. We got lots of donors, lots of people.
All right, that's public anyway, right? So that probably you
Of
can.
course,
All right, got it,
it's
got it,
public. We don't
got it,
hide it.
got it.
It's what's it called? We don't hide away from stuff. We're very open and honest about stuff. We're sharing the fact that this is a ground game, ground movement. People can come by and visit with us. They can become a volunteer. We try to be This is a movement of people. You don't just start having tons and tons of volunteers if it's funded by one person.
Got it. Maury, talk now. Let's move on. Best day. What is the highlight of all the time you've been doing this work? Give me your best day.
My best day
Was it
is
dethroning Congressmember Bowman?
I think that the reason why the Bowman race, I don't know my best day, but I think the Bowman Latimer race I think was extremely exciting because we saw one synagogue that turned out to vote at 90%. And I think you've been in politics a while, 90% is an insane number. And so when I heard that 90%, it sort of made me say, hey, look, imagine if we could produce more people at 90% and do that. And so I think that was my best day. The other thing I'll say to you and share with you is another best day for me is, when we opened our voter center in a couple weeks ago in Manhattan, a number of Asian voters came in and asked, "Hey, how can we do this in our community?" And we've had that in other communities also. The Catholic community has spoken to us about it, and other groups also. I think that's my second best day because it just made me realize that there's a real interest here in trying to get people out to vote and participate in these voter turnout and voter races. I mean, just massive interest. So that made my day also because I just feel like we're a bigger community in New York City than people give us credit for. People try to divide us. People try to say it's us versus them. And I think that there's the majority wants pretty moderate Democratic positions. They want to turn out. They want good jobs, good protections for their families. So it's not that complicated.
Worst day.
Worst day. Um, Worst day. I gotta think of my worst day. I don't know. I think I'm like everybody else, which is I'm hard on myself and I want to be better at things and I want to improve and work hard. So I don't know. I'll tell you, it's one of those days where, all of a sudden it was one donut I ate and then it ended up being 12 donuts I ate. And, I never make it on the treadmill. So it's just one of those days that just doesn't end up the way it's supposed to. And, that's probably my worst days. And those happen just as much with my best days.
All right, you're not endorsing now, but give me three citywide, statewide, federal folks that get it right, that are, get the great A grade on Jewish issues. This is not an endorsement, just name three.
No, I got it. Across the country or New York?
Well, I mean, it could be, again, federal, city, and state.
Got
He
it,
or
got it, got it.
she, members that get a letter, get an A grade on your issues.
Got it. I think I'll give you a couple. I'm a big fan of Stacey Pfeffer Amato in
Rockaways.
Far Rockaway because she won. She almost lost her last election by a couple votes, and then she came back this time and won overwhelmingly. And I think one of the reasons she did that was because she sat with the members of the Jewish community and other communities and really built a coalition and turned them out to vote. But I think her voting record reflects someone who listens to her constituents. It's moderate, and she's been great on that. I would say in the Senate, I'm a big fan of Shelley Mayer out of Westchester because I think also she's someone who's consistently heard the broad Westchester community that she has, and I've been very impressed with her since she was in the assembly. And I would say the most popular member of the local, state, and federal, and I mean in New York, the people are. I mean, a lot of people. Some people are not gonna like to hear this because they think they're most popular, but it's definitely Richie Torres by a mile. So I think Richie Torres is the most popular member in the Jewish community on the federal level, and in the country it's probably Richie Torres and Fetterman that the Jewish community is the biggest fans of right now, just because of how they've stood up and spoken out for the community. So I think I would say he has just a very loud megaphone, sort of an unequivocal megaphone over the last year and beyond. So those are the ones I would pick and talk about.
Maury, would you encourage Congressmember Torres to run for governor?
I encourage Congressman Torres to run for governor. I think it's difficult because Kathy Hochul has a very good record in the Jewish community, very good record standing up for anti-Semitism, very good record on a lot of our things. But Richie Torres is an ambitious guy, and Richie Torres has a vision for the state as well. it's difficult because like, again, I never want to discourage anyone from being ambitious in politics, anyone from saying I can help and I can do more, etc. But these are both friends of mine. Not an easy one.
Thank you, Maury, for your time. We covered a lot of ground. Hopefully, you'll be back when you're ready to sort of dip your foot in the pool a little more.
Well, we just got outside. It's 2 minutes in the conversation. The pool cover isn't even open, and you're trying to push me in. We
Well,
gotta,
no, it's
we gotta
after
get.
it's not after inauguration day. And 6 months is that's right around the corner. You know that, Maury. But that's all right. You'll
I should have been. I know. I don't even have my bathing suit on yet. I'm still in like a suit. I gotta get
Maury,
ready.
Maury, I find it hard to believe that you don't have a map somewhere with all the different candidates. That's fine. You did a good job dancing and skating and dancing between the raindrops. But you'll be back hopefully, Maury. And
I gotta get. I gotta get back on the program. I gotta give you
absolutely,
plenty more.
you're gonna have to come back because I want you to be more
100%.
definitive on who
100%.
which direction the wind is blowing for you all. But Maury, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
exactly.
Anything you want to add to the conversation that I forgot to ask you?
No, I just think that we have a phrase in the community which we're very proud of, which I'm going to say, actually, believe it or not, both the Harris campaign, we saw them using the phrase, or volunteers using the phrase. We saw the Trump campaign using the phrase also. So it was a very popular phrase. It means it's don't fetch, vote, or stop fetching, start voting. And that's our mantra with all this. So that's whether you're Jewish or not, just get out there and be part of the process.
Thank you so much, Maury. Again, we got to do another a sequel to this, and because there's a lot happening, and a lot of things are moving around here. So this will be a TBD conversation. All right.
100%. Looking forward.
Thank you so much, Maury.
All right, bye.
Bye.